Test, test. Very good. Okay. I'll call the meeting to order, regular city council meeting of City of American Canyon for June 4th, 2024. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you all. Roll call, please.
I put names on them. Councilmember Miriam Abadamas is excused. Councilmember Mark Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember Pierre Washington.
Here.
Vice Mayor David Oro.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Thank you all. Now we'll move on to report on closed session items, confirmation of reportable action. Mr. Ross?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you convened an open session at 4:32 p.m. to address the three matters agendized for closed session consideration. After determining that there were no specific comments on the matters agendized for closed session, you adjourned to closed session at 4:33. You concluded the closed session at 6:04 p.m. We'll do a written report upon return from closed session consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 54-957.1b. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council members?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Move on now with our agenda. Proclamations and presentation. Well, this evening we're very proud to present a proclamation for Pride Month, June 2024. So, recipient, please come to the podium. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
City of American Canyon Proclamation, June 2024, Pride Month. Whereas the City of American Canyon recognizes and proclaims the month of June 2024 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Month, LGBTQ Pride Month, throughout the City of American Canyon. And whereas the City of American Canyon observes Pride Month with a flag-raising ceremony to honor the history of the LGBTQ liberation movement and support the rights of all citizens to experience equality and freedom from discrimination. And whereas the rainbow flag is widely recognized as a symbol of pride, inclusion, and support for social movements that have advocated for LGBTQ people within our community. And whereas all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, LGBTQ individuals have made immeasurable impacts on the cultural, civic, and economic success of our country. And whereas the City of American Canyon is committing to supporting visibility, dignity, and equality for LGBTQ people in our diverse community. And whereas while society is largely increasing support LGBTQ equality, it is essential to acknowledge that the need for education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas celebrating Pride Month influences awareness and provides support and advocacy for the American Canyon LGBTQ community and is an opportunity to act and engage in dialogue to strengthen alliances, build acceptance, and advance civil rights. And whereas the City of American Canyon encourages everyone to participate in Pride Pop-Up on June 17, 2023 at Community Park 2. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Leon Garcia, Mayor of the City of American Canyon, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim June 2024 is Pride Month, and that the rainbow flag will be raised for the entire month of June in support of our LGBTQ community to recognize the influential and lasting contributions they continue to make in our vibrant community in which they live, work, and visit. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Go for it, Cynthia.
Hi, my name is Sophia Ortiz. I'm a current senior and president of the LGBTQ community plus club at American Canyon High School. I'm thoroughly grateful to accept this proclamation from the City of American Canyon. As an LGBTQ citizen of this city, this truly means the most to the community that we are recognized and accepted for who we are by the very town we live in. Without this proclamation of acceptance from the City Council, many of us wouldn't feel validated in our identities and wholly in ourselves. This wholeheartedly means the world that we are able to see the pride flag as we drive or walk by the town hall. Despite the surge of anti-LGBTQ hate and bills in this country that continue to be implemented to stop us from physically and verbally expressing ourselves, it brings pride in us that we are able to express ourselves in the town we live in. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you so much for that, Sophia. And thank you, City Council members. This is an awesome honor to be here to receive this and to follow our youth here who are definitely at the forefront of this movement. We need to be listening to individuals like Sophia more. I'm really happy to be here. Again, my name is Coach Bailey. I use she, they pronouns. I'm the director of LGBTQ Connection Napa. And this is a bold statement. When we did the flag raising a little bit ago, or on Friday, I mentioned that my hometown, Downey, California, just banned raising the pride flag. And I think about all the queer youth in that community and like what it was like for me growing up. And knowing that in American Canyon, like Sophia said, the youth don't have to experience that. Youth don't have to feel that isolation or that exclusion or that unwantedness. And that's the one thing that I've really loved about the City of American Canyon. Mayor Leon Garcia, your support, everybody's support here at the schools, it's been wonderful. So thank you very much.
Good to have you here.
You want to come up and get the proclamation?
Sorry. maybe we'll receive the proclamation.
Here you are. Thank you. Congratulations.
Take a photo? Okay. See, this is my third one today. I've already forgotten how this works. Thank you.
Oh.
And if someone is taking a photo, would you mind taking one on my camera as well? Thank you. Of course. Here you go. Well, it's almost. There's not actually. That is a typo. Yeah. NapaPride.com has everything that you want to find out about Pride happening in our town. Okay. Can everybody look at me? Look at me. Thank you. Okay, look at me. Okay, now look at me. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, next year we'll have a celebration here, be more specific, and I will be bringing it when I come to speak. Okay, there we go. Like, just for her minutes. Oh, yes. So that she's got to show. Yeah, no problem, Teresa, we got you.
Well, we certainly thank you for all the work you're doing out there with advocacy and in the community for the LGBTQ community. Thank you. Next, we have the proclamation of Juneteenth Independence Day. Yes, that's you.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give them a moment there to finish up. Okay. City of American Canyon Proclamation. Juneteenth Independence Day. Whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that all enslaved people in the rebellious states would then and thenceforth forever free. And whereas President Lincoln believed slavery to be in violation of the principles of the Declaration of Independence, and that its abolition represented a new birth of freedom for the United States. And whereas although President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing slaves in January 1863, It was not until June 19th, 1865, that Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, announcing the end of the Civil War and bearing federal orders proclaiming the end of slavery in the South and southwestern United States. And whereas Juneteenth Independence Day has a special meaning to African Americans, which combines the words of June and 19th, commemorating the traditional observance of the end of slavery in the United States, and is observed annually on June 19th. And whereas Juneteenth is an important opportunity to honor the principles of the Declaration of Independence and celebrate the achievements and contributions African Americans have made and continue to make in American Canyon and across our nation. And whereas June 16, 2024, in partnership with the American Canyon Arts Foundation and the City of American Canyon, we will be celebrating Juneteenth at Main Street Park. This is an unforgettable community event that celebrates African American heritage, history, and freedom through cultural ceremonies and activities that reflect the power of community, family, art, and tradition. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Leon Garcia, Mayor of the City of American Canyon, on behalf of the City Council, do proclaim June 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth Independence Day. In celebration of this day, I encourage the American Canyon community to attend the Juneteenth celebration on June 16th, 2024 at Main Street Park. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brenda Knight, and thank you, Mayor Leon Garcia and the City Council members. This is one of the most exciting time that I have for planning, because what it does is it have us to sit back and remember what it is. It is a celebration of our freedom. And would you believe that we are only generations apart from that time? My mom is 90 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she now talks about her grandparents, her great-grandparents who were there during that time. And it's amazing when you go back and you have such a connection to what happened back at the time when we just got free. You can't help but celebrate. So on Sunday, June 16th, you're going to have a wonderful day of friendship and fellowship and family. It's not going to be doom and gloom. It's going to be one of those things that you just want to be at, to be excited. With the African American community, we have different genre of music. We have the gospel, the jazz, the blues, the R&B, and it's all going to be represented there. We have all the food. It's going to be represented there. The people are going, you're going to have so much fun. You're going to say, why did I wait? Why did I just come this year? I should have been here the last 2 years. And you're going to want to continue to come year after year after year. I have to say I want to thank our sponsors who continue to support us every year, and we are so excited. Walmart has stepped up a second time this year to allow us to park in their parking lot so that you can be able to walk over to the park. We have, of course, we're so thankful to the City of American Canyon seeing the importance of it, and for the American Canyon Arts Foundation to partner with the city and with Brenda Knight Events, because I act as their consultant. And it is just one of those relationships that just works. Recology, Napa Valley Vintners, Fast Signs, Chamber of Commerce, Napa County. Oh, Councilmember Pierre Washington. I see your big name there. Mark and Cheryl, One Church, and West Coast Blues Society. And I just received, thank you, Fran. And this year, my Ladies in Red stepped up and donated to participate and be out there to be volunteers and to help out. So we invite you, community. Juneteenth is on Sunday. We're celebrating on Sunday, June 16th. The federal holiday is June 19th. Now, with the surrounding communities, we have things celebrating from Saturday all the way until Wednesday, which is the 19th. And so we invite you to please come out, bring your families, get to know one another, your neighbors. It's going to be so much fun that I'm just looking forward to it. So thank you. I have one committee member, everyone told me they were coming. I don't know what happened, but this is Ray, who was the professor here, and I enjoy working with him. He's been working with us for the last 3 years on this. So we will be welcoming you. You have a few words, Ray?
I didn't come prepared.
Okay. That's okay. He consults with me and talk and tell me things, and so I'm excited about that. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you.
Very good.
I will leave flyers over there for everyone to kind of pick up and take with them and invite somebody.
And come get the proclamation.
Get the proclamation.
Get your proclamation. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I was getting your card. I'm going to give you my card.
So we're going to get a picture. Of course you are. Okay, we'll come around.
Let me get you first. Let me get you first. Come on. This is just too cute. You two are just adorable. Get one this way. And then one this way because it's better on the socials if we're sharing. I did want to give you my card, and I'll see you on the 16th. Oh, okay, babe. Thank you. Councilmember Washington, you look like you had something you wanted to ask me.
Yeah, what was that date again?
June 16th,
Okay, just want to make sure.
from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Is it at Main Street Park or is it at some other location?
Where is Main Street
It is
Park?
being held at Main Street Park in American Canyon.
What street is that on? Brenda, we really look forward to it. You really put your whole life into this event, and it just shows. It's just a wonderful, wonderful event, and I'm glad you're part of it. I'm glad you're take the lead on it and make it happen. It really is an important thing for all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation. Got a question here, though. Presentation City Napa Housing Authority Annual Report. We also have it on the agenda as item number 16. Is that the same thing, Mr. Hawley? No, this is a separate item. They're a separate item? Okay, all right. Just print looks makes them look very similar. Okay, presentation on the City of Napa Housing Authority Annual Report. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia and council members. Let's get this rolling. Perfect. Where is the start slideshow? Ooh, where's the start slide? Okay, so I am here this evening to provide a brief report on the housing services provided to the city under the Housing Services Agreement that's with the Housing Authority, the City of Napa. So the city contracts annually with the Housing Authority to provide a variety of different services. Services provided in American Canyon include technical services related to a variety of housing functions, including assistance with affordable housing development, funding sources, opportunities, monitoring of affordable housing projects, and rental assistance. Additionally, the Housing Authority is contracted to administer the City of American Canyon's Home, CDBG, Cal Home, and Begin grants. So one of the main functions of the Housing Authority is to administer rental assistance programs countywide, including the City of American Canyon. The largest program in the Housing Authority administers is a Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Annually, HUD awards the Housing Authority grant funds to provide this rental assistance to very low-income households. Grant funds are used to issue vouchers to households to assist them with paying their rent on market rate rental units. There are currently 138 households in American Canyon receiving assistance. This represents an increase of 5% from last fiscal year. 12 American Canyon households also remain on the waiting list that we opened in 2022. So there are 34 project-based vouchers that were issued to Valley View Senior Apartments, 17 of which are Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Services to assist chronically homeless veterans. Let's see. 7 American Canyon voucher holders also participate in the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. They receive services, counseling, education, job training to become fully employed and independent. The goal of the program is to assist these families becoming financially independent so that they no longer require any government assistance. There are 6 households who receive assistance under our non-elderly disabled persons voucher program. These special vouchers provide assistance to non-elderly disabled persons or households with disabled persons in them. And 16 American Canyon families receive rental assistance through the Family Unification Program. This program works in collaboration with the Napa County Child Welfare Services to assist families who lack housing, placing their children outside the home, or delays the return of children to the home. This program also provides transitional housing for older teens coming out of the foster care system to secure appropriate and safe housing. The vouchers stay with the families so long as they are Section 8 program eligible. Under all of our rental assistance programs, each household meets annually with the housing specialist to recertify their income, their benefits amounts, and review their program guidelines with them. Housing quality standards inspections of the assisted units are done at least biannually by one of our inspectors to ensure that rental units are healthy and safe environments to live. The other area of countywide activities that the Housing Authority represents the city in is homeless services and projects. Housing staff represent the City of American Canyon at the monthly Continuum of Care meetings, where our local nonprofits and housing agencies gather together, including County Health and Human Services, to discuss strategies to develop programs to end homelessness countywide. So annually, Continuum of Care applies for HUD grants to fund housing services and case management, as well as rental assistance. The past year, HUD renewed our grant a total of $886,000, which was about a $42,000 increase over the previous year. And next is just the housing-based services. So under this part of the service agreement, we could do monitoring, compliance monitoring for the city's affordable housing units. So when it comes to the regulatory agreement monitoring, we make sure that annual for sale homes we verify the owner occupancy, that the homes are insured, and the property taxes are paid and current. For the annual rental projects monitoring, we make sure that the affordable housing agreements are being complied with, the tenant income certifications are done, the affordable unit counts are appropriate, and that they're in compliance with the local housing preference policy. We also do things like we provided technical assistance for lease up for Village at Vintage Ranch, training their staff, getting them up to speed on how the agreements work and how to operate the program. Also under the base services agreement is the monitoring of all the loans and loan servicing. So we conduct annual owner occupancy monitoring for all the first-time home buyer and housing rehabilitation loans that are issued and have been issued. We verify that the homeowners have insurance, property taxes are paid, title fees are paid and current, and we respond to all the loan payoff requests, refinances, and subordination requests. And also under the additional services are the city's multiple grants, Home, CDBG, Cal Home, and Begin. In 2019, the home grant application was awarded to the city for first-time homebuyer and owner-occupied housing rehabilitation. HCD issued about a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago, a freeze on the first-time homebuyer program from HUD. So HUD told the state they had to stop doing it. So we have since focused on the owner-occupied housing rehabilitation in order to utilize that grant. 4 projects have been completed thus far in the last fiscal year, and there are 8 more in the works that are out to bid that will complete in this next fiscal year. And lastly, our housing manager and myself are always available throughout the year to provide any technical assistance to staff as needed. And I'll answer any questions if you have any on the report.
Thank you for the report.
Yeah, absolutely.
Questions from council?
No, sir.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to get updated on
Thank you, Jonathan.
activities. Yes. We now have a public comment On items not on the closed session or open session agenda? Do you have any cards?
I have no speaker cards.
Anyone online?
I do have some hands raised online.
Okay.
Justin Hamilton Hole.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Good evening, Justin.
I'm gonna let you know. I was taking my tool, tried to cut the grass down on a hill, but Karen Thumore. I know that's gonna be a new housing at the Karen Thumore. I just want to see if that can be happening when we get new housing in there, new sidewalks, because grass is tall and to get somebody out there and mow it. Other thing is, Mayor, I am so proud of you. You're gonna be finished in the end of the month. We will miss you so much, and I'm gonna be so happy that we're at new mayor, Peter Washington. I hope Peter Washington will be good mayor, see Mayor King. So, and other than that, I'm gonna shout out Carrie Mae is from our market. Her assistant was here today I was watching it. Both of them was working hard, get ready for Pride Day. So again, Mayor, we will miss you so much.
Well, thank you, Justin. I just won't be till the November election is over, but I appreciate the compliment. If we have tall grass, that might be something that fire chief should be looking at. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I have Karina Cervente. Go ahead, Karina.
Hi, good evening, City Council, Mayor, and staff. I would like to get an update on what the city is doing to prevent cars and parking issues once the I don't even know what they call it anymore in Vallejo, that homeless shelter, or who knows what they call it now, because they've been changing the name of it. But there's a huge issue in our neighborhood here in Montevino, with cars being dumped and left. We're having an issue with transients. Today we had a naked man running by the bocce courts. There was 4 police cars there taking care of this man that I guess he was under the influence as well. The neighborhood met with city staff once long time ago. After that meeting, there hasn't been another meeting. We were told that there was going to be a town hall, and that there was going to be some parking restructuring, maybe some parking stickers for our neighborhood, and do not park signs. So basically nothing has been said, nothing is on paper. I would like a follow-up on what's gonna happen, because right now in my street, there's, for example, there's a house that there's 11 cars. We have counted them. And so parking is getting really tight here. And once the people start being in that structure next to our park, they only have 4 parking spaces. So you can imagine how the parking situation is gonna become. So I would like a follow-up on that. And who do we need to talk to about parking solutions on our street Do we need to talk to code enforcement? Just I need somebody to follow up with me. Police, who do we need to talk to? So if we can if I can have a follow up with you, because the neighborhood is becoming really unsafe. And
Thank you, Karina. You're at time.
thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That does warrant a follow-up meeting with the community. Perhaps you could help assist city staff with that. My understanding is the project's been stalled for a bit, but is moving forward eventually. Some of the issues you raised, certainly I can understand the importance of that, but I think that's it could be expanded further with the discussion. And I would think it would be timely to organize some sort of a gathering of the community in that area. Get the details of it. I've encouraged people, by all means, to be in touch with the city staff, and likewise, we need to be in touch with whoever's managing the project. So thank you for your comment. Is there another comment?
I have no other hands raised.
Okay. Anybody from the audience wishing to comment? Seeing none? Then that concludes public comments on items not on closed session or open session. And we'll close public comment at this time. We have a consent calendar next. There's
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
thank you.
I'll second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Oro,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor, I think there was also, we had the agenda changes where we wanted
That's-
to.
I'm just getting to that.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make an agenda change here, not on consent calendar changes, but on business item. We want to move item number 16, presentation Fair Housing Napa Valley Annual Report. We wanted to move it up next in order. Is there
That'd
a
be
motion?
staff's recommendation, Mayor. Yes, please.
Motion to do so?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Oro,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes, thank you. All right. Thank you. Mr. Satterine, pleased to have you here this evening.
Good evening, everybody. And good evening, Mayor Garcia, American City Council members, and staff. My name is Pablo Zatarain, and I'm the Executive Director at Fair Housing Napa Valley. Thank you for the opportunity to report on our agency's work on behalf of American Canyon residents over the last year, and for the city's continued support of FHNB's programs and mission. Fair Housing Napa Valley is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation dedicated to promoting and developing fairness and equality of housing opportunities for all people. The agency's services include information, referral, investigation, mediation, and housing counseling to both landlords and tenants throughout Napa County. We are proud to be the voice of fair housing in Napa County. Our agency has two primary programs: investigation and enforcement of fair housing complaints, that is, allegations of housing discrimination, and landlord-tenant housing counseling, which regards more common housing-related inquiries such as notices to vacate, rent increases, lease issues, and maintenance-related complaints. Both programs are offered to all county residents, including individuals and households living with subsidies or in mobile home parks, as well as housing providers, and that includes our partners over at the Housing Authority of the City of Napa as well. The funding our agency requests from the city supports FHNB's landlord-tenant program, while the agency's fair housing program is funded by grants from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Fair Housing Napa Valley's programs assist the city in meeting its affirmatively furthering fair housing obligations under federal and state fair housing laws, and also align with some of the priorities set forth in the 2019 General Plan and 2015 Housing Element, specifically goals regarding housing maintenance and rehabilitation. Our agency works closely with local code enforcement to ensure residents are not subject to uninhabitable or unsafe living conditions, that all residents comply with local ordinances as they relate to housing, and that such cases are addressed expeditiously and do not present an unnecessary burden on city resources. Most notably, however, Fair Housing Napa Valley's programs contribute to the city's priorities and goals regarding establishing community and a sense of place. All agency programs promote housing opportunities and resources for members of protected classes, who also comprise a large portion of the county's low-income residents. The agency's programs prioritize assisting low-income residents and members of the county's most vulnerable populations, including seniors, disabled households, families with children, and the Latinx community, with their housing needs and inquiries. This work also promotes and directly supports most aspects of the city's housing elements goals regarding housing for special needs by assisting the aforementioned members of protected classes with various fair housing-related services. Lastly, given the current dynamics of the rental housing market in Napa and American Canyon generally, much of the agency's current work is preventative in nature to ensure that housing for clients is preserved whenever possible, preventing evictions and displacement, and eliminating the need, at least for some, to seek alternate housing and/or risk homelessness. This has become an even more urgent priority in the aftermath of the pandemic, which exacerbated challenges and risks to housing security for too many American Canyon and Napa County residents. Over the past year, Fair Housing Napa Valley programs assisted over 150 American Canyon residents through a little over 50 cases through direct counseling. 57% of those inquiries were regarding a landlord-tenant matter. Additionally, Latinx and white families comprised nearly co-equal majorities in terms of residents assisted in American Canyon at roughly 37% each. BIPOC residents, Black, Indigenous, and people of color accounted for 63% of all assisted clients in the city. 54% of all open cases included the presence of an individual with a disability, while 45%, nearly half of all households assisted, included 3 or more household members, which indicates the presence of children. 40% of all inquiries were made by a senior household, and 85% of all inquiries opened by American Canyon residents were at or below the low-income threshold. These figures highlight the agency's focus on serving members of protected classes and our county's most vulnerable residents. As mentioned, the funding requested by FHNV from the city will continue to support the agency's landlord-tenant program, which addresses many of the cases of potential displacement, needed repair, maintenance, and other general and common housing inquiries highlighted in our 23-24 yearly report. Though these cases are generally easier to address than allegations of discrimination, the demand for these services is increasing due to the progressively competitive and limited local rental housing market. Local government funding has provided this agency with the necessary resources to effectively implement and carry out its landlord-tenant program, allowing other resources to support the agency's other programs. Your continued support, along with that of other local government partners, will assist Fair Housing Napa Valley in sustaining its program at current levels and adapting it to the needs of its clients. While the primary mission of this agency will continue to be to eliminate housing discrimination and promote equal housing opportunities for all residents, Fair Housing Napa Valley also realizes the severity of the rental housing crisis facing thousands of residents, particularly in the aftermath of the pandemic and wildfires over the past few years. Through effective implementation of its landlord-tenant program, this agency will continue to address the effects of this crisis, most notably risk to housing insecurity and displacement on families and households in American Canyon and the greater Napa County. As additional or new needs are identified among our clients, Fair Housing Napa Valley will strive to meet and adjust to those needs to serve all residents as effectively as possible. With the necessary resources, our programs will remain flexible and able to meet the increasing client demand with a broad range of housing services. While our agency will continue working to progress and improve as an agency, I am proud of our progress thus far. The hard work and dedication of our staff has truly been the driving force behind the tangible progress made by Fair Housing Napa Valley. And I would not be here in front of you all today without their efforts and sacrifices to improve as a team and organization. With the support and partnership of local government partners like American Canyon, our staff has both the resources and empowerment to actively assist clients and collaboratively address their complaints when needed. This year marked the 56th anniversary of the passing of the Fair Housing Act and the same milestone for the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. During Fair Housing Month in April, which this council graciously recognized that month, we remembered the sacrifices made by so many to make equal housing choice a right for all residents. We have more work to do to achieve this goal, and our agency is honored to serve the city of American Canyon in this capacity. I'd like to finish by again thanking Mayor Garcia, the American Canyon City Council, and staff for your continued support of our agency and mission. Our agency looks forward to continuing to serve the residents of American Canyon for many years to come. Thank you.
Well, sir, thank you for your presentation.
Thank
We
you.
know how vital that is. Certainly with the inflation nationally where it is, and in California, locally, and the availability or lack thereof of rentable space. As you're probably aware, we're doing quite a bit here in American Canyon to have housing available for low and very low income families. Like
Absolutely.
Cove down the street here a ways is a perfect example of that. And certainly
Absolutely.
with Watson Ranch, we're very sensitive to that issue in American Canyon. Actually, serving on the executive board of Association of Bay Area Governments, organization that gives the housing allocations to everybody. We're of 101 jurisdictions that belong to that. The 6 of us, or only 6, we're one of 6, who have met that requirement and exceeded it.
It's exemplary.
Continue to do so.
It's exemplary, and we appreciate the city's partnership and support of not just our mission, but of advancing housing as an issue.
How's it looking Napa Valley wide in terms of meeting affordable housing requirements?
I'm sorry?
Jurisdiction to jurisdiction, from north to south. How are we doing?
I think you all are leading the race here, but I also believe that that's part of the reason why an agency like ours exists, is to coalesce some of those partners, and especially local government partners. We are very proud of the role that we serve, not just here, but across Napa County.
Well, we certainly thank you for the service you provide on that.
Thank you. Do you all have any questions about the report itself?
Questions from council members?
Thank you for what you do. I think you do an awesome job.
Thank you.
You do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, any public comment on a presentation? Okay.
I
Thank-
have no, I have no cards and I have no hands raised online.
Thank you for being here this evening, both of you. Thank you. Okay, moving on with our agenda, we have a public hearing now, fiscal year 2024-25, recommended budget for adoption. And I believe the Finance Committee has an opportunity to look at this in advance of tonight. Mr. Gomez, I'd just like to comment on the city's webpage. I like some of the pieces that have been putting, helping people understand budget issues a little better.
Yeah, we're working on that transparency portal, and it's being updated. There's a lot of, as you can imagine, there's a lot of work in building a budget, not just figuring out the numbers, but actually figuring out
Well, the complexity of how
yeah.
city budgets work.
Correct.
It's not the same thing as managing your household budget.
Absolutely not. It's magnified times 100. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the public. Juan Gomez, Finance Director, and bringing forth this public hearing. This is the final proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-25. But before I begin, I want to thank all the departments, the department heads, all their staff, our finance staff, Finance Manager Gemelyn Cruz, who's also acting as the real budget manager and the person behind putting all this together. So I appreciate her help and all the department's help in bringing this forth. So as I mentioned earlier in last council meeting, this budget session kicks off in February. We're going through March, April, and May, where we're developing the budget with the departments. We're figuring out what can we afford and so forth. We brought the budget presentation to council in May. We also had a finance subcommittee. We're also finalizing OpenGov and building a draft budget document. We are here now in June. Today, June 4th, is the final city adoption of the budget. And also later on, Director Smithies will present the 2025-29 CIP, the Capital Improvement Program. So from last time we had a proposed budget that was balanced at $31.6 million, as you can see now in that middle column, that highlighted yellow column. We're revising our revenues slightly downward and also our expenditures slightly downward. So it's a difference of $53,700 for each revenues and expenditures. The net result is still a balanced budget. So we're still proposing a balanced budget, as you can see there. So what has changed from 2 weeks ago? Well, our expenses are going down, as I mentioned, $53,700. But what's driving this in the general fund is what's called OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits, which essentially is, there's only one other post-employment benefit that we offer, and that is retiree healthcare. We get an actuarial valuation every 2 years. This one happened to come in a little late, but thankfully just in time in order to present and adjust the numbers here for the budget. So what happens is they adjust the valuation based on what we earn and what we have in our investment trust. They also adjust based on the census, the number of employees that are currently eligible for that benefit. The current employees that are currently receiving that benefit, they look at mortality rates, investment rates, and so forth. So it's a daunting exercise. The end result of that was that the general fund is going to realize savings in fiscal year 25 of $147,000, $146,000. So what did we do with that? We added a fourth seasonal worker to assist with boots on the ground, so to speak. That extra body is going to be placed in the streets division. So we're now adding 2 seasonal service workers in streets and then 2 in the parks division. We're discussing the general fund here, but also included in the overall budget is 3 additional seasonal workers in water and sewer, total combined 7 seasonal workers. We're also adding building and security upgrades. Those are security cameras, equipment, locks, gates, et cetera. We feel there's a need for that, so given that we had some reduction in expenses, we're bringing that back and reappropriating some of those savings. On the flip side, on the revenue side, we're also bringing those down slightly. The good thing is that we're always looking and revising the budget. We're seeing what makes sense and what really needs that fine tuning. $30,000 on a $14 million property tax isn't a whole lot, but those refinements on there, we didn't want to completely absorb all the expenses and reappropriate them. We were a little more conservative. So at the end of the day, this is a balanced budget as well. Just going back to this here, you know, what I was looking at, I went back 5 years and looked what we proposed in fiscal year 20. In fiscal year 20, the general fund was at $20.5 million in revenues and $21.4 million in expenses. You can see how much we've grown since. This is a growth of about 54% in the last 5 years. So you can see with your own eyes if you go out in the community and see all the building and so forth. And a lot of that has been driven by property tax. So property tax has continued to increase, and a lot of that 54% growth has been in property tax. So I have also in my spare time, I watch other city council meetings, and I looked at their budget hearings, and you know, Mark, I'm sure Mark does that too.
Exciting stuff, huh? Yeah, wow.
It's first cousin to budgeting
Right.
and public works are exciting topics. Watching
Right.
other council meetings would be
You know,
like that.
and we should be proud of ourselves because we're presenting a balanced budget.
Yeah.
I watched other council meetings where they're dipping into reserves. The economy is a seesaw, right? It's like we get a lot of conflicting information, but some agencies are struggling and they are dipping into reserves. So we're fortunate here that we're proposing an structurally operationally, you know, sound budget here. Just wanted to throw that out. So here's the final proposed budget. Not much different than what I proposed 2 weeks ago. You can see the majority of our revenues are property tax at 47%, sales tax 12%, transit occupancy tax at 7%. That may look different in 5 years, right? As I mentioned before, we lost one of our largest sales tax operator here in town, or we're going to lose them. They're going to close operations in February. But on the flip side, you can see transit occupancy taxes at 7%, but we have a hotel that's coming online here, and we have 2 others that are coming online. So this pie graph could look a little different, just like it did 5 years ago. So there can be still a lot of fluidity, so we're continuing to monitor that. And as I get into the 5-year forecast, you know, the first 2 years are very certain because we have contracts, we have the number of employees that we have authorized, et cetera. But as I move out on that forecast, it's less certain. So here I just wanted to recap real quick on the general fund expenditures. Personnel is at $10.4 million, representing 22% of the general fund. Again, highlighted there is the 4 seasonal workers, 2 in parks and 2 in streets. I had mentioned before also there's a management analyst in Public Works and also a capital programs coordinator in Public Works Engineering. Again, just wanted to remind, we do currently have vacancies, and these are the vacancies. We have 2 maintenance workers, which I believe they just did the testing for that, so that's going smooth. HR analyst, police technician. We had 2 police technician vacancies. One was recently hired. We also have an administrative clerk that's open. The benefits at $3.4 million. Again, that highlighted piece. As I presented that last time, it was $144,000. Now it's $17,000. So it's less on that expenditure side. So I wanted to put in this slide here and just to show everybody what our city full-time equivalent staffing is. You can see that in fiscal year 23, we had 112 employees. Fiscal year 24, 114, 115 in fiscal year 25. Now, we did add two new positions in the general fund, the management analyst and the capital programs coordinator. There was also a removal of one here in administration, which was the management fellow that we had. We never got a chance to get that recruitment out, but we do have a net of one net position here. So 115 equivalents. That includes the sheriff's contract. So you can see the sheriff's contract here is 27 employees. That is where we added the one traffic sergeant back in fiscal year 24. There's no new positions requested or authorized in fiscal year 25 for the police contract. And again, similar to last year, the numbers changed very slightly. They didn't move the percentages a whole lot except for that retiree OPEB. That is now 2% of the overall budget here. But overall, city personnel costs, $10.4 million, are still 1/3 of the city budget. So again, how does that look from where we were 2 weeks ago? It didn't change. Still a balanced budget from last year as well, $10.5 million. We are continuing to fund the general fund contingency at $7.9 million, or 25% of general fund expenditures, which is the target, so we're meeting that target there. Wanted to remind everybody that we also have fund balances in the ISFs, which are the internal service funds. These are the repair and renovation funds. We have approximately $4.8 million there. And I wanted to talk about here the unassigned fund balance. So we have the unassigned fund balance of $1 million. Now, what is it and how can we use it? The unassigned is essentially unassigned. So the governing board has the ability and the discretion to move that money how they see fit. It's unassigned means it doesn't have a purpose. It's not committed for anything. So how can we use it? It's the least restrictive, meaning we can shift it around how we see fit. As a governing council, you can move it as you see fit. What are some of the options we have with this $1 million unassigned? Well, we can put it in a capital reserve. If I go back to this previous slide, we had a capital reserve of $1.3 million. We did some rearranging of the fund balances and we moved them into the ISFs here. We can also park some of that money back into the internal service funds. And what I mean by parking that money is like we're currently right now, as Director Smithies will show in the capital improvement program, is that we are actually funding some of these projects with internal service funds. So we can continue to put more funds into the ISFs. We can take some of that $1 million and put out new projects, build new things. We can also keep it and retain it as unassigned. So those are the options, and I'll be seeking some direction from council on what you guys would like to kind of move forward with on the unassigned. 5-year forecast. Very similar to what I showed last time. As you can see, the blue line is our revenues, the red line is our expenditures. We continue to be above, our revenues continue to be above expenditures, except when we get to fiscal year 29. As I mentioned, in fiscal year 28, we lose some of that Measure A funding that we have in fund balance. Measure A is used to fund our storm drain folks division. So as we lose that funding, it's going to be absorbed by the general fund. Hence, we can see that red line moving above there. Big graph here with a lot of numbers, but this is our forecast. This table is how I got to this chart here. And what I wanted to point out here is that we still have this VLF here, this in lieu of VLF, this property tax. You can see down below our revenues minus expenses for fiscal year '26 is positive 270, 430 in '27, over $1 million in '28, and then we start here with the loss of that transfer in from Measure A, we start dipping into the negative. Now, why am I pointing out the VLF? Well, the VLF is $2.4 million. I have a surplus of 270 if we happen to lose that VLF. We're in the negative. We're going to be negative all the way around. And one of the reasons I was watching other agencies' budget presentations is because some cities in San Mateo County have been going through this VLF issue. And thankfully, I saw one city in particular has included the VLF in fiscal year '25 because they had received notification from their state representative that their VLF repayment from the state was included in the state budget. So,
Mr. Gomez, can you just explain VLF to the public?
Yes, it's a vehicle license fee. I think Jason can probably explain it a little better.
Very short version of the story is money that's collected when you pay your register your vehicle. Normally, money that would come to us has been taken away and swapped with other state revenue sources, and in a very, very arcane methodology that the state came up with 2 budget crises ago, 20 years ago. Whether or not we'll continue to receive VLF in the future for reasons unrelated to cars at all, more related to student enrollment at the Napa Valley Unified School District for reasons that's not even going to matter. A complicated formula puts these funds in jeopardy. The condition already exists in San Mateo County. They're getting funded this year. Precedent, we're hoping that we'll get funded next year. So that's sort of a short version of what is an extraordinarily complicated, long story.
Yeah, I think that was part of the economic crisis that we experienced in the early 2000s. And I know League of California Cities spent a lot of time trying to explain that to all of us. It was kind of presented as what's the shell game? Where's the P now? It was trade this for that type of thing to balance the state's budget because they were in very serious difficulty with it. But I don't know that all the cities really said we're losing revenue and you're giving us in exchange something that, well, there wasn't a whole lot of confidence that it would be sustainable. Yeah, put it that way.
Yeah, essentially it's a tax swap. So what this is in lieu of VLF, the state was providing us with, through the county, property tax in lieu of VLF. So they took away the vehicle license fee, and in return they backfilled us with property tax. But it is, as the mayor says, was a swapping of taxes for the state in order to balance their deficit budget. Yeah.
So getting back to San Mateo, then they are in the same situation as Napa County might become, or Napa
Correct.
Unified, and they're still getting it from the state, even though technically they're not eligible. So is that the good news from watching council meetings?
That is the good news. The good news is that, yes, they essentially, for all intents and purposes, got it taken away. It depends on the school and whether they go to what's called basic aid. The San Mateo schools there went to basic aid, so they lost the VLF. What they've been advocating and lobbying the state government to receive that funding back because it's an impact to the local communities. It's a magnitude, you can imagine San Mateo County is a magnitude much greater than Napa County, so we're talking substantial dollars there. So the state has, on a year-by-year basis, been backfilling those lost revenues to them, but it's not something that, the state currently is experiencing a large deficit right now in the billions of dollars. So for them to do that is a positive sign. That concludes this was a little more condensed than last time, but this is the general fund portion of it. I'll be happy to take any questions now on the general fund.
Questions from the council regarding this?
I had just one quick question. On that unassigned budget, the 1 million, is there a way that we could invest that into something to make money on that or no?
So the money is invested. What I mean by not putting it to work is not building something, not upgrading a park, not repaving streets and et cetera like that. But all our idle funds are actually in a pooled investment, so we're earning, right now we're earning about 5%, so we're earning a decent return, which is good for a risk-free. It's in U.S. Treasuries and bonds, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Joseph.
I had two basic comments, or one pitch and another one is more of a comment. On the 146,000 savings for OPEB, I like what you're doing, what we're proposing to do with it, but an alternative would have been to actually put some of that into the pension stabilization ISF fund, just as an FYI. If we get another good year next year, that's something I would like to suggest staff consider, because it's similar to what I'm going to say on my next comment, which you can probably imagine. We do need to start setting monies into those ISF funds. And I would like to suggest, as I did at the last meeting, that we somewhat arbitrarily pick a $250,000 figure and transfer $250,000 from the unassigned, that $1 million unassigned amount, into the internal service funds for park and street and whatever renovation. A, because we need to get in the habit of doing that every year, and B, taking it from the unassigned for no other reason than you've assembled a budget. And at this point in time to say, can you just carve 250 grand out of your operations, I'd be shot, and for good reason. So I see it as an easier way to get into the habit of setting money aside by using that unassigned balance, or a portion of it. And looking ahead at the capital program, I was struck with the idea that it looks like there's about a $750,000 gap in the park improvements and renovations. So my guess is, if we were to say, let's set 250 grand a year, by the time you needed that money, that extra money would be there. So even though I just picked 250 because it seemed like a safe number, it actually has some relevance when we get into the next topic. So that would be my proposal, is that we transfer 250 from the unassigned into whatever appropriate ISF funds, so that we are beginning to get into the habit of setting money aside for capital renovations, so we can fix things when they need to be fixed, instead of when they look really run down and people start making fun of us. And I use the unassigned this year only because we're this late in the budget process, that going forward, the direction would be find that 250 as part of how you build your budget. So that, I would make that as a motion if I get a second or any discussion.
On the discussion side, why not putting some aside? It's the $1 million that we're looking at, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing for the
Hey, Juan, can you put that slide back up? That shows
the capital set aside project where there was capital reserves. How are we going to refill that?
Well, I don't want to speak for staff, but I think the idea was that capital reserve basically goes away, not just in terms of a pocket of money, but as a concept, and we embrace the ISF funds that we see there.
That's correct. The capital reserve was removed because it had been sitting in the general fund, kind of just languishing there as a placeholder. What we did last year is we actually reassigned a lot of those fund balances, and were a little bit more deliberate and specific as to where we were going to put this money, in what bucket, so to speak.
Councilmember Joseph, would you mind clarifying the gap that you just mentioned in the next item related to the CIP, which you said you thought there was a gap or something?
If I read the budget correctly, there seems to be about $750,000 in park renovations that show up as unmet need or unfunded. Maybe I read it wrong, but
I'd love to know what page you're looking at so I can get a better understanding of that.
see if I can find that for you.
The reason I make note of that is we generally don't put projects in a forthcoming year CIP unless they're fully funded, because we don't want there to be an expectation that we're working on a project we don't have enough money to do. So it will kick a project out if we're still searching for grants or special revenue fund or what have you. So I'm not exactly sure that in 24-25 capital budget that there is a shortfall somewhere in any of our projects. But if you saw something, I'd love to know what that was.
Hard to say on Granicus. It's page 6 of 10 of the attachment. Basic. It's kind of annoying because Granicus doesn't paginate.
Yeah. What does the top of the page say?
The top is Parks Projects.
Okay, I think that's 92 of the packet.
Oh, okay. And if you look under, governmental funds modified, showing unfunded CIP 50,000 in 26, 350 in
Sure.
27, and 350 in
in outlying years.
Excuse me, are we looking at one of the attachments to this?
At page 92 of the packet, Councilmember Joseph is talking kind of in the middle of the page, page 92 in your packet, what Councilmember Joseph is pointing out, as we look at outlying years budgets, which are, again, just a forecast at this point for those budgets. That's where it's 650, but that's the number I think maybe Mark was referencing. In the current year CIP, which again it would be your next item, there aren't any deficits in that current year. So part of, I think the question to really address the item right here is, should we do anything with this undesignated fund balance, unassigned fund balance, that currently has a little more than $1 million in it? Should we do anything for next year, for 24-25? Should we, for example, put some additional fund balances, transfer them over here to this, to any of these internal service funds or what have you? And that's, like Juan said, completely up to the council to do. It is correct that our approach has been to essentially cancel out what was that unused capital reserve that just hung around forever and wasn't doing anything, and to create these repair and replacement ISFs that are filled up and depleted over one or more CIPs on a more reoccurring basis. And you'll see in Erica's presentation in this next item, we're proposing to use a significant amount of these ISF funds for current year capital projects and capital projects next year. So these have activity in them. None of them get to zero, but they have activity in them and proposed for the next year.
Right. And again, I'm not suggesting that we use the unassigned for the capital set aside as a matter of policy. I'm just trying to be, remembering my budget years where you figure out how to make something work at the last minute. So it's simply a recognition that we don't want to redo the budget at this point. But I do think it's important, as I've said for year after year, that we've got to start setting monies aside to maintain our parks and streets and other assets, facilities. And since we've created the ISF fund structure and seeded it with some one-time reserves, we need to get in the habit of setting aside some money, and I don't know what the right amount is. That's why I'm starting with 250, to set that aside and for now use the unassigned reserve just as a pragmatic solution. But next year and going forward, it would be built into the budget process. You would just have to find that $250,000. And then that way, there's monies in these funds so that when parks wear out or streets wear out or buildings wear out, we've got the money there and can basically fix things when they need to be fixed instead of years later.
What you're describing something like a reserve fund for a special area? You want
Sure.
to build on it?
You could call it a reserve.
That's worth having a conversation, because it's great to have it there, but if it's not being used, then I think we need to put it to work. My concern would be that, do we have enough reserve funds in case we're facing some sort of economic challenge, and that we can cover costs? But at least worthy of having a discussion in more depth on.
Well, number one, we already have that 25% set aside already. And number two, parks
We've
and
achieved that
streets,
goal.
We've achieved that goal.
Yeah.
Parks and streets will wear out over time, facilities will wear out over time. You either set monies aside a little bit every year so that when the time comes you have it, or you either invest in, bonding and financing, or what usually happens is facilities get older and more worn out and nothing gets done, and then you spend a lot more money when you finally fix it. So I'm simply recommending that we do what we can, because as our finance director pointed out, we're fortunate. We are not dipping into reserves just to make ends meet. We're in that enviable position where we can start doing the things that any finance director would love to do if only he or she had the resources to do it. And I'm suggesting a method that will get us there, at least for this year, and then hopefully next year it can be built into the budget. Or theoretically, if it's tough, you have that unassigned balance if you need to make it work.
Yeah.
Councilmember Joseph, is there, of these ISFs, is there a particular one, we say, yes, we'll use, move 250 from the unassigned and put it in?
Not particularly. My goal is to get that money in there. I have long believed that department heads will always be available to point out where you could spend it. If we gave our public works director $1 million to do streets, she would figure out where to spend it.
Well, I used to be a public works director, so I'm pretty good at spending it
Parks
too.
and Rec people, they can find it. So
yeah,
I've always embraced the idea that, always figure out where to get the money, because there's always those who are ready to spend it.
Yeah,
So
always spend it.
for me, that's why it's so important that we get into the habit of setting that money aside.
Yeah, in that case, I think staff's recommendation would be, if the council wants to go forward with the suggested motion, is that we'd recommend putting it in the parks renovation and replacement. Streets renovation and replacement as a concept, we've preloaded it with 1.5 on prior fund balance, but it also has two funding sources in gas tax and Measure T, whereas parks renovation doesn't have its own standalone revenue source. So our recommendation would be that we would put that 250 into that one, because it doesn't have its own funding source at the moment.
That would make sense.
That would be the only method that we would use, but it's certainly up to the council on what y'all want to do, if anything.
That would work for me.
Does the other councils have any objection to that? Because I kind of, it
I'm
sounds
just
good
a little
to me.
confused now because there were some numbers flying around and categories. I thought this was going to a retirement fund or OPEB or something.
That was an earlier comment when I was saying, an alternative use of that 146,000 in savings could have been going into the pension stabilization. But as I pointed out, I kind of like the idea of adding an extra seasonal worker, so I'm not advocating we do anything that,
Yeah, just a little bit of backstory there. As we were preparing the final budget process, we had that fourth seasonal worker sort of on the fence. We ended up pulling it out very late in the game, got a revised expenditure projection that was less than we thought. Some savings, showed up, and so we said, okay, let's put that back. It was kind of first in, first out kind of a thing. Mark's point was, categorically, if you have some projected savings around other post-employment benefits, putting it into the pension stabilization fund, which you use for your other retirement benefits, makes sense as a genre of expenditures or a niche of expenditures, and could very well have gone in there and made sense too. And that, his point was, but he also liked the idea that we were in that fourth person.
Yeah,
So
I just wanted to throw that out as, if we get lucky again, that's an alternative use of those monies. But for this year, I liked the way staff came up with it, so I'm just throwing it out as a comment, and I apologize if that got confusing.
Can you restate your motion?
Okay, my motion would be to transfer $250,000 from our unassigned general fund reserves into the Parks Renovation and Replacement Fund.
And before you make a motion or a second,
And where's the unassigned reserve balance on there? Can you show us that?
Sure. The unassigned reserve fund balance is sitting in the general fund. Right there.
106,727.
1 million.
His motion would have the effect of making that 1,006,271 $250,000 less, and have the effect of increasing the Parks Renovation ISF by 250.
I guess my question would be, as the subject matter experts, and I'm asking both of you, is this a good? And I'm not trying to challenge you. I just want to
That's-
from your perspective, because you watch all these city council meetings. You see what they're doing. You just showed us and told us how good we are, right? Would this put us in a good position in your professional opinion?
So my crystal ball says that we're good for a year or two. You never know, outlying years with the state budget deficit, VLF thing looming over our head and so forth. So for the next 1 or 2 years, yes. I think I have additional information, as I mentioned last council meeting, in that our current year, fiscal year 24, the current year that ends June 30th of this year, we were projecting a $288,000 surplus. It's looking more like $1 million. And as I mentioned before, it is because of the amount of vacancies that we have. We don't pay the salaries, we don't pay the retirement associated with those vacancies, the OPEB, the medical, dental, et cetera. So we have some savings there. So from my perspective, moving $250,000, 25% of that $1 million, it's going to get replenished immediately next year.
All right, that's all I needed to hear from you. And you feel the same way, Jason?
Yeah, I maybe just a little bit different take on it, and I appreciate Juan's point. We're not going to end up this year short, right? If we thought we were going to end up this year short, we would say, no, we don't want to do that. We're not going to end up this year short.
Right.
What I do want to, put a little bit of expectations or set some expectations around the use of these ISFs in our CIP, this next item. We're not going to use all of the money in the CIP we're asking you to budget next year. So even though we may put money in the Park Renovation Placement Fund, that doesn't mean a project worth $250,000 is going to happen next year, more because the pipeline of CIP projects we already have is actually larger in dollar value than our entire general fund to begin with. So we have a large CIP pipeline already, and projects are underway. Establishing a philosophy and a practice where you backfill these fluid funds and deliver, especially small ball type projects, is generally a good philosophy, as opposed, and they invest, again, this is how the council expresses its priorities in the community. And by investing in the community, and say, hey, we know the community has a value here, we're gonna put some extra, we're gonna start establishing a practice of putting extra funds here when we have it. It creates a good repetition that can be started. So for the instant year, for the next 24, 25, will it matter? It's not going to change how our CIP is built or delivered because that's already maxed out, but it creates that good working practice that could alter how things are done in the future. And I think maybe that's what Mark's point was.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, I would really like to see us do something this year, but I also think it needs to be part of that overall discussion about fiscal policies. So that it's part of the bigger theory. Now that we're over 30 years old, we need to start shifting to institutionalizing some of the things. Some of us have been around for a while and we can automatically say, oh yeah, we did this 20 years ago and now we do it this way. As we move on, we want the organization to have a written set of rules and policies that guide everybody going forward. So fiscal policies are probably the most important. And arguing over the mechanics of this as part of that fiscal policy makes sense. For the short run, I think putting some money aside for these projects will be, money well transferred. So I make that motion again.
Oh, but before I can even second it, do we still need to go to public comment first before we make a decision, or?
Ms. Ross?
We should have public comment, Mayor. It's a public hearing. We should have public comment.
That's why I wanted to make
So just to add, that was the general fund portion. I still have 2 more slides just for finish it.
Okay.
And then I feel like I'm just catching up.
Yeah.
So, and the 250 mark for this is using, give me the reason for that and why parks and why you're agreeing to that. Why not something else?
The 250, there isn't much of a rationale. I think we probably need to be close to $1 million, but I don't think that's prudent. So 250 was just a good round number.
We're giving it a try, something new we're getting into. Yes,
As to why it should go into parks, that's because staff recommended it, and my theory is if I'm getting what's important to me, I'm more than happy to let staff work out the details. So.
Yeah, staff's thought process there was that particular ISF has utilization, it has expenditures. It doesn't have, that category of projects doesn't have any other funding sources than this ISF. Streets renovation and repair has other funding sources like gas tax in Measure T. And so you don't see any utilization actually in that ISF in the current year because we're using those other funding sources. So one of the things that we've noticed of those funds is those are going to be the two main drawing funds, spending and going, but one has a couple funding sources and one doesn't. So we say, well, let's put the
That
one in
makes
the one
sense.
where you don't have a dedicated funding source. The 250 is more, we see it more as a philosophical shift rather than something that will actually change something that will happen in 24, 25. It's more of a philosophical practice.
So your motion would be to amend the resolution to that effect?
Well,
The
I
budget
mean,
to that
we,
effect, excuse me.
I mean, we could make that motion now, we could go through the whole process, and as part of approving the budget, trust me, I'll remember to bring it back up, so we can do it either way.
We'll work on some language here behind the scenes because it's not actually a transfer. So what we would. I
This
think we
means
would
this
specify
item's
the dollar
back
amounts.
next meeting?
Beg your pardon?
This item will be back next meeting?
No.
No, Mayor, we're going to hopefully approve it tonight, but while we talk about the enterprise and then do public comment, we're going to tweak how we accomplish what is the motion.
All right. That satisfies that requirement. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And just to add to Councilmember Oral's comment, just from a finance director standpoint, we know our assets have wear and tear, right? We know people drive on our streets, there's wear and tear, there's potholes. We know that the equipment, the playground equipment becomes used. We know that there's roofs that leak, et cetera, in our building facilities. What I think Councilmember Joseph is proposing, and I agree, and this doesn't give me heartburn, again, to Councilmembers Washington's comment, because one, we have our contingency funded at fully 25%, and two, we're not projecting any deficits this year or next fiscal year. So I can sleep well at night knowing that we're not moving money just to move money or in anticipation when we have greater needs. But again, to the point is where we have assets that are wearing, and when we replace a road or sewers, it costs in the millions of dollars, and we just don't have in our back pocket millions of dollars. So this mechanism is to build some of those buckets, hence the ISFs, build some of those buckets and have that money available so that we can do an entire project. Economies of scales come into play also, where we're not working and shutting down streets for just 2 blocks or something, but we have some significant funds, significant money in these funds to do some of these projects. So for the next year, yes, we're going to look at systematically proposing to fund some of these, and essentially is we need, from a finance perspective, though, we do need some more intelligence to where we're going to park this money. For example, I would need to work with the Public Works Director and figure out, like, what are the assets and the useful life, and what are you guys seeing, and assessments on assets, and then we can determine how much funding and the mechanism to fund those would be. So that's what I think Councilmember Joseph is proposing. So with that, I only have 2 slides here in anticipation, one of the CIP program. Let me back up one instance here. The OPEB report also affected other funds. It did just not affect the general fund. The general fund savings was what I proposed there, 146,000. But it also affected the water fund, the sewer fund, the building ISF, and the fleet ISF, because we have employees that are actually working in there, and they in turn get some of that benefit as well. So there's a proportion of those savings, and that proportion is generally a majority to the general fund, but it's not entirely the savings. So the capital improvements program, as you can see here, we have $42 million. $42 million, whoa, sorry about that. $42 million in revenues, and our expenses of $39 million for a fund balance of $14.8 million. Now, the capital improvement funds, as you'll see with when on our next presentation, is a slightly less than $39 million. It's actually a $35 million CIP program. And the reason is in the capital improvement funds, it's not only the CIP fund, what we call CIP Fund 350, but it also includes developer impact fees. And sometimes they transfer between each other. So there's what we call inter-fund transfers under the same category. So for example, the Parks Impact Fee, which is a capital improvement fund, is going to transfer money into the CIP fund to actually, that actually expenses this project. So the expenses here you're going to see is higher at 39 million versus what Director Smithies is going to present, which is a $35.1 million CIP project. This is just up here for just to quickly talk about it. I know most folks will not be able to see it, but it is in the packet. It is in the agenda. If you go on our website, you can see the attachment. This is the recommended balance, ending balance projections. And basically what I wanted to point out here is that the majority on the right-hand, the last column, which is fiscal year 25 budgeted fund balance, you can see the majority of those fund balances are positive. Again, we are in a good position. We're not in the greatest where we can do whatever we want, obviously, but we're not in dire straits. And you can see there's healthy fund balances, and you can look at those at your own time, but you can see that there's healthy fund balances, and also in our water and our sewer. Just the caveat here to know, in the water and sewer funds, which are our enterprise funds, for example, our water operations, that very first line is at $28 million. That's not a $28 million cash. That's our net position. So a little different with these types of funds in that they're taking into account the value of the capital assets minus the depreciation, plus your normal investments in cash and so forth. So when you look at water operations, it doesn't have $28 million in cash. It's more like $10 million. So with that, that actually concludes the presentation here. And again, I'm happy to take any questions, or if city manager and city
Other
attorney.
questions from council member?
No, sir.
This being a public hearing? Council ready for public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Public hearing on this matter is now open. Do we have any cards? Anybody online?
We have received one written comment from William Baker on this item. I have no speaker cards, and I have no hands raised online.
Okay. Anybody in the audience wanting to comment?
Mr. Baker's comments, are they part of Granicus, or was it an email?
It was part of Granicus. You should have received it. I'd be happy to read the comment if you need me to.
I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. It is, I respectfully suggest that the upcoming 2024-25 city budget include provisions for security measures given the probable opening of the Broadway project during the fiscal year. Measure to include in the parks or traffic portion of the budget may include signage along Broadway from the Napa County line along the Veterans Memorial Park regarding parking restrictions. Install appropriate signage regarding unauthorized overnight parked cars in the Montevino area next to the park, pending Montevino neighbor request, and fixing existing and additional lighting in the park or another security measure appropriate in the light of the tenant's arrival in the Broadway project. Thank you for proactively keeping our streets and neighborhoods safe in light of this pending development.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of those requests sounds like the kinds of things you would have in your operating budget, and that it doesn't necessarily require any kind of supplemental appropriations, or?
That is correct. Based on what I heard there, lighting and street signs, and the budgets in general include an anticipation of some of those signage to be replaced and wear and tear, and new signs. To the extent that it could be more than that, that would be potentially brought forth at mid-year.
Okay, great, thank you.
And just to add another little point to that, we don't assume that project, because of the income limits of the residents, is going to result in more crime. We think that is a fallacy. So to the extent that that location opens up and There are issues in the neighborhood that happen, regardless of whether they're the result of that project or not. We'll continue to evaluate them. We'll continue to evaluate all neighborhoods in American Canyon, and to the extent there are signage needed or traffic safety enhancements needed, then we go forward. Our operational budgets routinely have amounts in there for small things, and that's how we proceed.
What's needed, I think, is the dialogue between who will be the tenants? What is the admission criteria? How's it going to be managed? That always speaks to the success of any project of this nature.
Agree.
And certainly relationship with the neighborhood adjacent. There's a working together piece there that can make that successful.
Yeah, I would agree.
Having worked with in those types of areas in my past history.
I think parking might be a bigger concern, but that in turn is like a state requirement that they don't require parking. So that is something I think might happen, because when you have 44 people and 4 parking spaces, it seems like the odds are.
Well, to that point, Councilmember Joseph, not everybody's going to have a car.
No, I agree. But there are some who might. In any event, it is what it is because the state sets that standard. But to me, I think parking might be an issue, but I suspect our officers can patrol the site, and if it's an issue, it's an issue.
They'll certainly give us the feedback on what they're finding in the field out there. Yes.
Mayor Garcia, I do have a hand raised online. I'm going to call. Are we ready for it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to Justin Hamilton Hole. Go ahead, Justin.
Good evening, Mayor. I'll make it very quick. I had somebody come over my house as it's something about to do with the PGC. I know we're gonna get ready to, or this is the 4th month, get ready to put the phone line under the street, underground. I don't know if this is a good agenda. And we did, I did back out last weekend. I think we're gonna get the on the ground, the phone line on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another speaker?
Let me see here. No, there are no other hands raised.
Okay. Anybody in attendance wishing to comment on this matter? It's the city budget. Okay, seeing none. There's no other public comment. We will close public comment, return to council for further discussion, desired action.
Well, bringing back my issue, and I'm not sure how staff has worded it, but I'm thinking we would need to increase the transfer from the general fund to the Parks ISF fund in the amount of $250,000.
Yeah, we'll kind of work on this on the fly with Juan. So starting on page 76 and page 77 of the agenda, which are the attachments to the resolution that you would be asked to adopt tonight. It's Fund 655, ISF Parks Renovation and Replacement. You can see, at the very end of that page 77, there's already proposed expenditures at 849. I'm thinking that we put proposed revenues. Right now, there's $0 as proposed revenues in 24-25 that this motion would put $250,000 as proposed revenue for that line item, that ISF, and then it would reduce the proposed revenue in Fund 100 by that same 250. But I'm looking to you, Juan, to say how you would want it.
No, it's not an expense. It would need to be a transfer.
Okay.
It would need to be a
Looking at here
transfer.
on page 77 of the budget. Is that what we're looking at?
I believe you're looking at the resolution, right?
I'm looking at the attachments to the resolution, yeah.
Oh.
Attachment, what page
We,
is that
we
in?
can adjust the attachments, but the transfer would need to be, the simplest form would probably be just to add in the resolution where council authorizes a transfer, and then we can update the attachments, yeah. That gives us the authority.
Revision to the resolution we're talking about?
Yeah,
Correct.
So page 67, now therefore be it resolved, the city council
Okay,
of the
in
city
the
of
agenda, I
Marion
got the resolution on page 85. And 67 has another table.
Page 67 is just the resolution there, at least in mine.
Okay, here we go.
we're going to propose some additional language. You want to propose the language that you're comfortable with?
Yeah, it would say something like council authorizes an additional transfer from the general fund to the Parks Renovation and Replacement Fund in the amount of $250.
Okay, pretty straightforward. Yeah.
I'm gonna just, hold on, we're gonna say it slow so I can just get it in here. So council authorizes an additional transfer.
From the general fund to the Parks Renovation and Replacement Fund,
655.
and then in parentheses, Fund 655 in the amount of $250,000.
Fund in the amount of. All right, I have council authorizes an additional transfer from the general fund to the Parks Renovation and Replacement Fund in the amount of $250,000.
Correct.
Okay, and I just putting that language right on the end of what's already there.
Yep.
Okay.
If,
Motion does need a second, though.
yeah, I was going to say, I
Okay.
appreciate skipping the process, but I'll make that motion
Okay.
to amend the resolution as stated.
And I'll second it.
Motion second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Oro,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
good discussion on this matter.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Mr. Holly. I did find the page 67.
Oh, good. Thank you. Juan.
Real quick, just on a side note, I will revise the budget in the tables, but it's just so you know, like, as similar to last year, it's going to show a deficit, right? Because it's a revenue transfers in minus expenses and transfers out. We have a operational balanced budget, but it's moving again, as I mentioned before, we're taking money from our right pocket and putting it in our left pocket. It's not actually being expensed. But for accounting purposes, that's how we have to reflect it.
Okay.
And I'm happy to be the person, just say, Mark Joseph screwed up the balanced budget. I'm good with it.
Probably
But-
just use like an asterisk or something like that.
It does. That's going to get an
Be
asterisk.
that kind of
Yeah.
shows.
Sure, yeah.
It's an asterisk.
It's a
It was
not
budget
really.
before council
Little
got
bit
it.
of
it-
Then once
annotation
council
with
had to
the,
wet it, they
Yeah, staff
unbalanced
did
it.
a good job, council screwed it up.
Might be helpful to have a, as you're talking there,
Yeah.
Councilmember Washington, annotation that says
Yeah.
matter was discussed.
The other thing I, not really.
No, we need to move forward and adopt the resolution, yes.
I thought we did.
No, just, that was the amendment.
That was,
We amended
it was the original language plus the
Yeah,
new
and they added it
language
to the end.
added on.
Yeah.
We're done with that. Yep.
All right.
All right.
One other thing, and we didn't talk about the key performance indicators that was in there, so I just wanted to give a thumbs up to staff for including that. I really think we're slowly but surely getting the kind of data we need to be able to analyze it. So I wanted to do a shout out
Yeah,
and
that's-
say thank you.
Thank you.
If we're doing things and spending money, then we need to know how well we're doing things. Yep. What's the results? Okay. Thank you. Good, healthy discussion on the budget. Thank you. Moving on now to business item 15, 5-year capital improvement program, fiscal years 2024-25 through 28-29.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia,
Good evening.
council members, and the community of American Canyon. I'm Erica Almond-Smithies, Public Works Director, here to present you the 24-25 Capital Improvement Program. As you just adopted earlier, just going to go through the projects, and then I have a follow-up slide that actually gives you the progress of where we are to date on currently budgeted projects. First off, we have a citywide list of projects. We have the long-term plan, which we helped develop in 2022 with the long-term need of about $500 million. But then we have to funnel that down to about a 5-year project and then down to one annual budget that's actually adopted every year. Status of funding undetermined, 5-year forecast, and funding availability for this year's appropriation. I really thank you for adopting that earlier. Here's just kind of a visual of all our different funding sources that we use. Not everything, but it's really, it's a catch-all, right? You know, you funnel in all the project funding that comes in and is appropriated or to the city, and then it funnels down to try to for a forecasted 5-year plan. Then we have to start phasing those projects. Funding's more certain the first year in, and then it gets more undetermined as you go out. Our budget summary for this year, some of these have a lot of zeros in the projections. I don't think they're quite, as I would say, accurate, because we know we have annual income coming in from Measure T and local gas tax, not local gas tax, state gas tax. So we're not going to do projects out in 26, 27, 27, 28. We just gear up on those annual projects, and we want to refine those as we get into that closer year. As council just adopted, I'll show you the summary list. One is phase 2 of Rancho Del Mar, which are funding design this coming fiscal year. But it'll probably be another couple of years before we actually got to construction, so those costs will be appropriated accordingly. Here's just a big pie sample of where all the budget goes when it comes to the capital improvement projects. The biggest piece of the pie is the transportation projects. And then you have the civic facilities and parks, recreation, and wastewater competing for the other funding as well. Not really competing against each other, just, you know, how many projects are identified in those funding allocations. And then you have water and recycled water projects. For 24-25, there's a total of 34 CIP projects. It's about on the same par as last year. A lot of them are carryovers. 27 projects are currently budgeted, with 7 new projects proposed in 24-25. One is the Civic Maintenance Project, which is the PD parking lot improvements. 2 park maintenance improvements are Main Street Park and Veterans Park. And then we have 2 projects in transportation being added, and then 2 utilities projects.
Transportation includes what activities? What's in transportation?
So I'm going to go by division.
When we get there? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I should have asterisked the new projects. So the police department parking lot is going to be the newest project coming in the fiscal year for Civic Division. In the parks projects, you'll see, actually Veterans Park playground replacement and resurface, and then Main Street Park improvements are in there. We try to add the calendar year, and as you can see, we have a lot more newer, recent projects that were added, and we hopefully going to end and close out Newell Open Space this coming fiscal year, and the Wetlands Edge Environmental, but then you're going to start seeing a lot of projects getting completed and more recent projects being proposed, or newer projects being proposed in the future calendar or fiscal years. In streets, you'll see the Rancho Del Mar Phase 2 projects being presented for new, and then a citywide pavement rejuvenation project such as a slurry seal or Cape Seal type of project in some of our subdivisions to keep our pavement maintenance as well as our rehabilitation projects moving forward. Our 24-25 project utilities, there's two night projects being added. It's the Andrew Sewer Repair. This is the next phase. We had the emergency. We don't want to have that happen again. We're lucky on our cost for the emergency, but we want to actually plan and design and get that sewer repair in advance of a failure. And then we're doing some manhole rehabilitation on Cartagena. If you recall, a couple months ago, we had a gentleman come here concerned about the lack of movement. City staff did a temporary repair, but it's going to need some more rehabilitation work. It's literally the surface is sagged around the manhole as well as the sidewalk. And that's the end of the proposed CIP program moving ahead. And I'd like to, if you have any questions on this, before I open the next slideshow, which has all the pictures.
Transportation, that's streets, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just had my MBTA head on, and I thought it was buses.
All right.
For a moment. Streets, thank you. Yeah, a lot of work to be done there.
And then I'd like to show you tonight an annual capital improvement program showing what we've accomplished this past fiscal year, what we're currently in design or currently in construction and then what is in design. This past year, we completed 9 capital improvement projects. What's not on here is like the planning project, like the wetland restoration plan. So that's another accomplishment this year. The total of all these projects is approximate, but we delivered $7.48 million in projects this past year. Don't quote me on that number, it's an approximate, but I didn't have it in the full thank you. now how do I do that from here? I started off in the wrong slide. There you go. Thank you. Sorry about that. So as you can see, all the projects, some of them might have overlapped from last year fiscal year, but we didn't close them out until this fiscal year. But most of these are all brand new projects that were delivered in, and like the adult activity center, the playground, skate park relocation, Via Bellagio playground surface, the annual pavement project, the emergency sewer repair, the irrigation controller upgrade, and the wetlands edge court extension. That last one is the one that was overlapped from spring to summer. Here's the recycled water system expansion, just showing you the progression from start to finish. Over 9,000 feet of new recycled water mains and conversion of our existing irrigation surfaces at Community Park 1, 2, and the school district. Adult Activity Center flooring's not quite finished yet. They still have some closet doors to install, but those are going to be installed within the next week or two, so before the end of the fiscal year. The playground replacements, if you have not been out to Via Bellagio, Northampton, or Linwood Park, Linwood just got completed last week, and the fence came down, so Director Ikeda might be having a ribbon cutting out there, I'm not sure, but it's something to celebrate, to see this project in collaboration and the work getting done this past year. The skate park relocation, I mean, that was a huge celebration just in April, and we're still in the punch list mode with the contractor, but I'm hoping to bring the notice of completion next month. Via Bellagio Park surface, well, I just showed a picture of the parks, but then we also added the all-terrain universal play ground instead of having the mulch, which is what we're going to try to work through on all our parks moving forward. So it's more inclusive play for for all. The 2022 annual pavement project, delivering the Cookie Hill and a big segment of Donaldson Way, and some needed Class 2 upgrades, crosswalk and ADA curb ramp improvements. The Andrew Road emergency sewer repair, about 500 feet of compromised clay pipe, and then we'll add another 1,800 feet in the next fiscal year. Irrigation controller upgrade. Someone asked me $90,000 for just Lavinia. Yes, and these are such sensitive controllers. They're detecting leaks throughout our system more than we are aware of now that they're online. So if you're seeing parks and maintenance out there checking these controllers, it's because it's identifying leaks in the system. They won't operate until we go out and make repairs. So it's so smart that it's helping with our own leak detection. Wetlands Edge Court extension. As I said, this is our final capital improvement project that was very in the beginning of last July that we closed it out. On to capital projects and construction. Council has authorized $5.8 million to date on these capital projects that are currently in construction. It's no wonder that a big chunk of that is our Green Island Road undergrounding. PG&E is almost completed with the conversions in their underground. What will be coming up next is AT&T in July, and then Comcast if they're not already in the underground system. The removal of the poles. What I shared with the chamber earlier this week is that some of the old lights that were on the existing PG&E poles will be coming down, so there'll be temporary darkness along Green Island Road on one side of the street where those power poles were a combination of the old creosote poles versus a standard street light. Those are being replaced with the road widening project, which we hope to get, that'll be in the next in design slide. The Benton Way pavement rehabilitation, we've had our pre-construction meeting, and I just see that and then we will be beginning construction on June 17th, so just 2 days after school's out. And then that includes refreshed Class 2 bike lanes, bulb outs, improved crosswalks at the intersections of Chaucer and Hummingbird Way, and then improved curb ramps throughout the segment from Wetlands Edge to Donaldson. The courtyard relocation, thank you for advancing additional funds. I think Jason signed several large purchase orders in the last couple of weeks, and we may have a building as soon as August out there for office space for staff. We showed you the site plan, and city staff's currently doing a lot of work right now until the grading contractor comes on board in a couple of weeks. EV charging station, we will be getting 2 solar chargers delivered this month. I don't have an estimated date of arrival yet, but they will be deployed at the Napa Junction Community Center and the Aquatic Center. And then we'll be getting a new dual port charging station here at City Hall. So we'll have 3, hopefully, existing dual port chargers to be able to charge up to 6 vehicles. Capital projects and design, this currently says 8 on 10 here that are in design. That equates to about $26 million in projects to be delivered. If we can deliver those all next year, that'd be great, but I think some of these will probably roll over into the following fiscal year, summer. The biggest one will be Newell Trail open space. We plan to advertise this summer for just the trailhead and the parking lot improvements and start construction in September so we can complete the project by the end of this year, have a brand new opening entrance to the new open space, and close out a very old grant.
Is the trailhead, where does that go?
The trail is the entrance to the trail now, the current trail.
To the gate?
Yes, not all the way to the gate. So we are still under acquisition of the trail segment from the trail, a little bit above the trail to the gate. So it's about half a mile. There's a couple of pieces that need to be acquired.
So you will build it except for those pieces that were...
The trail sections. The improvements will be done to the parking lot, the trailhead entrance.
The trailhead entrance, but not how far down that trail?
Not very far. Green Island Road widening reconstruction. You've been updated on this previously on our next tranche of bond funding issuance. Plan to bring that back here probably in August, July or August council meetings, with the goal to advertise in September and award a contract in October. This is all pending. The next thing is like the completion of the undergrounding and, of course, the funding. Melvin Road sidewalk and drainage improvements. We received 100% plans last week, bid package. So we'd like to get out to advertise in July and begin construction again in September. The SS4 Broadway sewer rehabilitation, currently in design, complete design. We're anticipating about around August. We also have the undergrounding from across Highway 29 that was part of the Watson Ranch project that we're now taking on design, be reimbursed by the developer. We're hoping to be able to combine both projects because that'd be the win-win to have it a combined construction project, but depending on timing, begin construction this October, November. And then wetlands edge enhancement. I did not get the latest. We received a site plan from our consultant. It looks really pretty. It's a little bit different than what you see here on this, but it'll be a vast improvement. It includes a bathroom and then the open air seating and a lot of new landscape. So it's very exciting what the local Studio 1515 through RSA Plus provided the city last week. I think the community will be really happy at seeing the improvements. Knightsbridge rehabilitation, I believe we're just waiting on 100% plans this month, any day now. This will replace all the water mains on Knightsbridge and rehabilitate the main streets between Dan Rose and Elliott, as well as the cul-de-sacs along this. It'll be really great because the anchor of the Linwood Park and first phase of the improvements have that cul-de-sac all redone. I was out there yesterday and it's gravelly, so it'd be really nice to see this neighborhood revitalized with the improvements of this project and the water main repaired. And then Rancho Del Mar, everyone's been anticipating this. I think this was brought to open space for the Class 3 bike lanes on Rio Del Mar. Again, we're waiting on 75% plans with the goal to award a contract or go out to bid this August, September, and be out to construction in November. Probably wait till construction for spring, but award a contract before the end of the fiscal year to obligate our ARPA funds, our Federal American Recovery Act funds. Silver Oak and Northampton bathroom projects. We combined all these projects into one slide since we're in the design process and we don't have plans yet, so I can't show you anything more than what I have right here, but these are 2 bathroom projects and then a shade structure at Northampton. Again, these are projects that we should have plans later this summer. They're pretty straightforward projects. It's just the utilities you got to work out and the site planning. The only delays on this would be manufacturing of the actual modular bathrooms, but very straightforward projects. Utilities are nearby, and once we have site plans, we can get out to bid and get these delivered in the next fiscal year, ideally. Questions? I know I ran through that really quickly. On July 16th, I will be bringing back an actual capital improvement master schedule. Because as you saw, there's a lot of projects in design right now, and we have to look at sequencing the available resources and the reality of, can we have 8 construction projects out at the same time, and how are we going to staff them and manage them? We're putting everything together now, managing projects, and Director Akeda and I are balancing some of the parks projects and probably the new ones that are coming on board. The capital project planner coordinator you adopted with tonight's budget would be helpful. So trying to sequence those projects so current staff can actually deliver good, thorough projects and design, and then have something for the new person to come in to help carry the load. Because the projects aren't going to slow down. As you see, they keep building. We're adding them every year, so it's not slowing down.
Wow, thank you for the presentation. You have been very, very busy. It will be continue for a long time to come now. Council comments before we take public comment? Councilmember Washington.
Yeah, Erica, thank you for the presentation, and like the mayor says, you've been really busy.
The team's been busy.
Well, yeah, but I've seen you out there too, so I know you're out there with them. My question has to do with the EV charging stations.
Yes.
One, I'm glad that a lot more are coming out and about and being present. But are any of them supercharging type stations?
They are level 2.
Level 2. The reason I ask that, because those who don't know much about the charging stations, is that some of the complaints that I've gotten from electric vehicle owners is that when they go to some of them, people tend to leave their car there for an extended period of time. So then they can't charge. And they were asking if there's possibilities of probably, because they're free, correct? They're free, most of them?
Right now they are, but we're working on that. Working with.
That's good. That's good that you are, because in the EV world, the question that they're saying is that if they're free, that's good. But can we start considering idling fees?
Yes.
Meaning that when the car sits there beyond its charging stage, it now becomes a cost to that owner. So they police themselves versus having someone else have to police them. I spoke to 2 people who said that they've gotten in an argument because he unplugged someone's charging and put it in his, and I guess his car has the ability to conversate with him from a distance from his phone. So we might be setting people up for those type of incidences. So I was just thinking that if we did come up with an idling fee, that would help them police themselves.
We're, Councilmember Washington, internally right now, staff having some conversations about should we have a fee program for our charging stations, what kind of fee program. We would likely need to bring that back to council. It would be, this is cost recovery. It takes electricity to power these things. Some of them break or sooner than you would like, so and have to get replaced, unfortunately. So, you would think of it as a cost recovery model. So we're having those conversations right now. We're looking at bringing something back to council in the next probably 3-4 months.
Okay, I would suggest then, if you did something like that, maybe reach out to the community of people who own these vehicles so they could tell you how they would prefer managing and policing themselves in that. Because unless you have one, you kind of really don't understand what Type 2 or supercharger does. And I think the dialogue is getting a lot more with the owners because there's a lot more electric vehicles in our city. They're popping up everywhere, so just a suggestion. But I think they're great that you got them going on. I think it's great, the presentation, so thank you.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, staying on the EV charging station, the 2 solar ones are exciting. It'd be fun to see whether it can produce enough solar energy to charge, but they're neat. And I would agree an idling charge makes sense because we're never going to have enough EV charging stations, so hogging is definitely bad. I had a couple of really specific questions for self-serving purposes. So on Benton Way, if the project starts on June 17th, might it be done by July 8th or 9th, or July 12th, I think is the date? And I say that because the Kiwanis are going to be installing a playground at the Boys and Girls Club the weekend after 4th of July. So I'm just being self-serving and saying, hey, are we going to have a problem or what?
There will be access from Donaldson Elementary during the full closure, because the plan is to get the flat work done before July 4th and then start on the full road closure. Whether that falls within your time frame, I'm not sure. But coordination should happen to make sure that you guys have access. I think this came up before, and I don't know if someone reached out already to our project manager, Christine De Los Santos, but if we could talk offline, that would be wonderful. Make sure all bases are covered, because that equipment's not light to carry, so.
That's true. So, okay. And then the other one, there was some talk at the Corp Yard that there were some telephone or power poles that, you know, if they could have been moved a little bit, you might have been able to position things different. The way it's ultimately laid out is where the power poles are now. Does that really make any difference?
Power poles would have delayed this project over a year, because it would have been a regular conversion to underground. The way they're located and the lights on Hess, the power on Hess, we did review that and speak with PG&E directly on it. And there's a fault line right there around those poles, so a building there wouldn't be good.
Wouldn't have been good anyway.
Yeah.
So ultimately, those power lines are going to be undergrounded as part of the Oat Hill Apartments, or?
On Napa Junction, those poles, but when it starts going over towards Hess at an angle, those are not, unfortunately, because we were trying to add that to the project.
That would be good. Okay, well, thank you. I love the project. You are busy. Your whole team is busy, and that's exciting. And that's all I can say. Good job.
Yep, thank you very much for the presentation. Council ready for public comment?
Yes, sir.
Public comment on this matter is open.
Yes. You put in the reclaimed water pipe on Hess Road, and I hope that you're going to fix the road back to normal, because there's a ledge all the way up, and everybody drives on the wrong side of the road because they don't want to drive on that edge. So that road was good. It's not good now. Let's put it that way.
That is part of the developer putting in that section of line, so we'll follow up with them and find out.
Okay, because I didn't see it on your project.
Because it's private. These are only capital projects, so.
Okay,
It
thank
was,
you.
yeah, no problem.
Okay, other public comment? Anybody online?
I do have Justin Hamilton Hole.
Okay.
Just one moment. Let me get him on here. Go ahead, Justin.
I am so sorry. Back up. Thank you for Erica coming on here. I'm so sorry. I think we were talking about budget, but now I can just talk about what's going on. I'm so happy. I am Napa Kiwanis. I can't wait to see our American Club and our Napa Club will help build a playground for a girl club. My question is, yes, I saw somebody at my house. He said that BC is going to move the core underground. Is that correct? By my house? That's my question.
I would need to look into that. We had another similar call this week, and we don't have any files, so we put an inquiry into PG&E. 'Cause this is the second public information I've heard of someone from PG&E saying they're undergrounding lines in the area, and we don't have anything in our records. So be alert, and please contact us, Justin, about that. That's it's not on our radar.
Yeah, and he said to me is he let everybody know. He said that we're gonna get a letter from PG&E for the 4 month. I think start September. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
I have one more question. I noticed today when I went out in front of my house, PG&E wrote on the sidewalk, something. But it did say PG&E, I think, on it, in yellow. So does that mean they're going to be doing something there?
It may be, if it's brand new, it could have been the utility locates for the recycled water line that they put in. It's usually,
This is new. This is,
then someone's turned in a utility locates for undergrounding.
well, they already did that. They have flags all the way down the road. But I just noticed this morning. They chalked it, and it's in yellow. And it wasn't there yesterday. And that line is already in there. I just wondered, maybe I should see PG&E about that. I just wondered if there was something PG&E's going to do.
It could be them, or it could be another contractor proposing to do work.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment? Anybody else online?
No hands online.
Thank you very much. If there's no other public comment, I'll close public comment. We'll take it back to council for,
There's no other comments. We're adopting this tonight, right? I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024, next in order, adopting the 5-year capital improvement program for fiscal years 24-25 to 2028-29.
I'll second.
motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Washington?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Oro?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you, council.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on our agenda, I think we're now at management staff oral reports.
Yes, Mayor. Director Akita has some updates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to tell you about all the wonderful things that are be taking place over the next couple weeks around town. On June 5th, which is tomorrow, we have the American Canyon Fire Finance Subcommittee at 3 p.m. On June 8th, we have a free paper shredding event for residents from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. located here at the American Canyon City Hall in the parking lot. Also that day, we had originally planned for a Newell Open Space volunteer work opportunity on May 18th, but we had to move it to June 8th. This is going to be from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and it's going to fill in the ruts and the dips and the first portion of the trailhead, from the trailhead up to the first gate. So if you're looking for volunteer opportunities, that'll be a great one to be able to enhance the Newell Open Space Trail. On June 12th, we have the American Canyon Chamber of Commerce Meet Me in the Streets on American Canyon Road from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. On June 15th, the Napa Valley Museum invites you to their Mash Bash at Rosie's Bar from 5 to 7:30 p.m. On June 16th, the American Canyon Community and Parks Foundation will be hosting a Father's Day Family Nature Walk at the Wetlands Edge Preserve from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Also that day, in partnership with the American Canyon Arts Foundation, American Canyon will be celebrating our annual Juneteenth celebration at Main Street Park from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. 1 p.m. to 6 p.m., And then on June 18th, we have our city council meeting at 6:30 and a special joint city council meeting with our Parks and Community Services Commission at 7 o'clock. And then a special joint council and open space after transportation and sustainability commission meeting at 8 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anything further, Mr. Hawley?
No, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Move on then to Mayor Council comments, committee reports, then we'll take up future agenda items. Councilmember Joseph?
Well, we have our list of projects. So first up was the Napa Valley Transportation Authority, where we did meet. A couple of things most of it was kind of ongoing and routine kind of internal stuff. We did approve the first reading of the Measure U, new and improved Measure T bond issue. There'll be a second reading and then sending it to the county to put it on the November ballot. So that is exciting. And then just for self-aggrandizement, I was appointed chair starting in July. So I'll be the chair of the Napa Valley Transportation Authority for presumably the next 2 years.
Well, yes, you are, and
So that-
congratulations. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to that.
So-
Bravo.
And it will be timely because the next 2 years should be the environmental review for the SR 29 improvements roundabout, so I will be able to try to assert whatever authority I have as chairperson to make sure it's done and done well.
Councilmember Joseph, when was the last time an American Canyon representative chaired that seat?
It'd be Leon, whenever
Uh,
Leon was.
2006, 2008. It's been a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so just in time.
Yeah, well, given that we have 5 cities in the county representing it, it takes a while to rotate through all that. Yeah, okay. Councilmember Washington.
No, nothing to add, thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Oro.
Nothing to add. I do have committee meetings coming up over the next few weeks. Napa Valley Tourism Corporation Board, ABAG General Assembly coming up. And I'm sure there's something else, but I'll report back then.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, it's a busy time here. It's been a couple of busy weeks since last time we met. Would like to comment on one recent one that we had the opportunity to attend was the Napa Solano Center Labor Council Spring Salute. And City Manager Jason Hawley brought us home a prize. No, really, we were given an award for labor activism. I think a lot of that had to do with our project labor agreement that we were able to accomplish. And I think to date, we're the only jurisdiction in the county. Is that correct?
It's my understanding. Yes, correct, Mayor.
It was a very good evening, very well attended. Got at Woodland Winery. And, well, I think that just reflects the mind frame of the American Canyon City Council on how we work with labor and to achieve the quality and timeliness of work that needs to be done. Memorial Day was a great event this year. I just really like the ceremony with the individual flags. It makes it a very personal event, I know certainly for me and my family, and I think many of those elsewhere who attended. When you can recognize a loved one lost, family member lost, and appreciate their dedication, their sacrifice for service. State Senator Bill Dodd had he does an annual celebration, community gathering, what it is, of constituents at his house, and it was always very, very active this year. He got a little bit emotional with Bill he was recognized, and it's very poignant for him on the work he had done by so many people. He is termed out, will be retiring in end of November, like somebody else here will. Had the Pride flag raising out here in front on the 31st, and that was very good. American Canyon Fire Protection District had the badge pinning for 3 new firefighters, so that was very good. Employee Citizen Academy graduation. Thank you for all the city staff who helped put that together. I think that gives folks who may not work in or have that much contact throughout all the day-to-day operations, but it gives them, paints them a picture of the organization they're involved in, the magnitude of work that has to be required and completed, and it's just, I think it's a great step forward for their understanding. Had a Recology tour. Thing that I stepped away from that was you're up on the upstairs. I think everybody else has done that. When you see the whole sorting line, and they're doing the blue bins, and all this stuff that should not be in, like plastic film, etc., is coming through the line. So I had an opportunity to had an idea on that. I had coffee with the principal of the middle school, Carlisa Baleari, and said, "Is there a teacher here who teaches anything like environmental studies?" Or and I ended up with a long conversation about, it could be a presentation with kids that age on what goes into the blue bag. The blue bin has got to be certain things. How do you take that home to educate other kids? I mean, oftentimes it's the kids who are involved with activities like that seem to be the front guard of their other household in terms of, you got to put it in the other container, things like that. So that's to be explored further. Coffee chat with the Chamber of Commerce, always good. Napa Unified School District, State of the School District. The superintendent gave us a very long presentation for about an hour on what's going on in the school district. We were hosted here at American Canyon High School. And the side conversation going, why? They got so much room here. This audience wouldn't fit in the other schools. All right. MBTA is moving forward on purchasing 6 electric buses. That was the other thing from MBTA. And Redwood Credit Union had their grand opening. They have a large conference room. Those of us who have been there, it's probably larger than this room here, easily. Open for community organizations for free to use. So I would contact them about your organization, see if it fits in with their requirement and availability. And that would conclude my report. I know it's a lot of stuff, but as we say, it's been a busy month, and some of us are going to have a busy month continuing. Future agenda items, anybody? We have a list here. Hearing none? Okay. Were we done?
Yes, sir.
We were just discussing Redwood Credit Union's offer and
Oh, yeah.
how we can immediately
Take it
fill
back.
in all the blanks.
That's right. That's
So
right.
that sounds excellent.
Yes,
They
I
have
think
a
that
commercial
conversation is
kitchen
ongoing
we're
right
in.
now. Okay, with that being said, council, then we have concluded our business for this evening. Thank you all for your participation in this and the work being done. It was a good, productive evening. We are adjourned.
Good night, American Canyon.